Let's give yourself a hand for all coming tonight. We didn't tell you, we have a little vaudeville act tonight, so this is just the beginning. That's right. Well, let me just thank you all for coming tonight. This is a great turnout. We're very glad to have you here. My name is Bruce Gagnon, and I'm a member of Peaceworks, and I'll be the moderator this evening. This is a really timely event, which is obvious by the fact that you're all here. We all know that the discussion of wind power in Maine has been a raging debate in recent months, with lots of letters to the editor and op-eds and all the papers around the state, and other media coverage as well. So we thought this would be a timely event. No matter what side of the issue you might be on, I hope that most of you are coming because you're really looking for information. You're hoping to learn something tonight. But no matter how you might break down on the issue, I hope that in the end we all remember that the most important thing is that we protect our Mother Earth. And I think that everyone that wants to promote wind power or be cautious with wind power, whatever their orientation might be, is all, I hope, centered around the issue of their concern for our Mother Earth. I'd like to thank our sponsors this evening. And I'm going to ask people that belong to each of the organizations, when I call them out, if they'd stand, just so we can get an idea of who belongs to which organization. First, Peaceworks. Any members of Peaceworks here, please stand. All right, thank you. Next is Cool Communities Bath.
Yay, Bath.
There we are. Friends of Merry Meeting Bay. Maine chapter of the Sierra Club. And finally, Greater Brunswick Transition Towns. Now I noticed that several people stood up about 5 times. So I imagine you must be very, very busy. And we thank you for being able to be here tonight, fitting this into your schedule. About the rules tonight, we're going to begin in alphabetical order with our 6 speakers. Each of them will speak for 7 minutes. And Selma and Herschel Sternlieb, sitting in the front here, are our official timekeepers. Selma has a clock and a huge gong that she's going to ring at the end of 7 minutes. But at 5 minutes, she's going to hold up a sign that says 2 minutes left, and then when the time is up, they're going to hold up the end sign. And if you don't stop speaking at that time, the floor actually will go out from under you. So, and you will find yourself in the river. So it's a little chute kind of thing that's been established. Following the opening statements, we will have question and answer from you. And I'm going to try to get to as many of you as possible. I'm thinking I just might run through the crowd with the microphone. And we're going to ask you to keep your questions short and right to the point, direct them to one of the speakers. And I'm going to do my very best to try to make sure that each of the speakers gets an equal chance at responding to questions throughout the time. We're going to go to 9 o'clock, and in the last 20 minutes or so, we're going to stop and give them each some time to make a closing statement. And we'll go in reverse order for the closing statements. So the last will go first, and the first will go last. Let me tell you about each of our speakers tonight. Jonathan Carter is the director of the Forest Ecology Network, a grassroots citizen-based organization dedicated to protecting the Maine woods. He's a founding board member of the Friends of the Highland Mountains, which is working to stop the 128 megawatt grid-scale industrial wind proposal for the Highland Mountains. Representative Peter Kent is serving his first term in the Maine House of Representatives from parts of Bath, Brunswick, Topsom, West Bath, and Woolwich, and is a member of the Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry Committee. He recently led a tour of Brunswick, Morse, and Mount Ararat High School students to encourage them to consider careers in the offshore wind power industry. Angus King, former Maine governor, is a principal in Independence Wind, a Maine company formed to develop large-scale wind power projects in Maine and New England. Prior to becoming governor, Angus was the owner of Northeast Energy Management Incorporated, a developer of major electrical energy conservation projects in south central Maine. Joanne Moore calls herself a retired homemaker, mom, grandmother, writer, artist, gardener, and woodworker. She believes in the spiritual value and serenity we humans find in the wilderness and our need to protect our forests and our oceans and all creatures who live within. Lynn Williams is an attorney from Bar Harbor. Much of her practice includes land use matters, and she currently represents a number of community groups involved in land use issues. Lynn is a member of the Bar Harbor Planning Commission and is a visiting professor at the College of the Atlantic. She's also a recent candidate for governor with the Maine Green Independent Party. And then finally, Peter Woodruff is a mechanic designer at Bath Iron Works and lives in Arousic. He's the co-author of the Gulf of Maine Wind Turbine Petitions, a member of the Bath Economic Conversion Group, and a co-host of True, a radio show that airs on WBOR FM in Brunswick at Bowdoin College. So please welcome all of our speakers. So Jonathan, if you would pick up that mic, and
I don't know if I need it.
I wish you would, because some people here have, yes, please use it. And the clock, yes, and the clock is on.
Okay, hello. Listen, it's a real pleasure to be here, and thank you, Peaceworks, for putting this on tonight. The wind issue, industrial wind, is a big, big issue in Maine today. And I think there's a lot of misconceptions about what industrial wind really is all about. We tend to talk about these industrial wind generation plants as wind farms. They are not farms. Farms imply that you work in unison with the land, that you take care of the land, that you're a husband to the land. This is not what industrial mountaintop wind is all about. These are massive industrial power plants that are going to scar, if it happens as the expedited law that was passed in 2008 goes into effect, scar 360 miles of mountaintop and ridgeline in Maine, result in tens of thousands of acres being clear-cut, thousands of miles of new transmission lines and roads. It's going to completely alter the rural landscape of our beautiful state, and particularly our mountains. Just to give you some idea of the scale that we're talking about here, probably in the back room you can't see this, but these turbines are over 400 feet tall. Taller than the Statue of Liberty, twice the height of the tallest building in Maine, and they're huge. They're not little tiny toothpicks with little twiddly things on the end. They're huge constructions, huge mechanical machines that are going to sit on top of our mountains. They sweep an area the size, if you took a Boeing 747, they sweep an area of almost over an acre of land as they move at 180 miles an hour at the tips. These are huge facilities. They are not farms. They're incongruous with the mountaintops of Maine. Now, I want to talk to you tonight about the ecological impacts, particularly of the Highland Mountain plan up in the western part of Maine. The Highland Mountains rise right up around to something called the Sandy Stream Valley, a valley I happen to live in. And I want to also tell you, before I get into the specifics of that particular project, because it's a good example of what's in store for us if we allow this unprecedented gold rush for wind to take place on our mountaintops. But the Highland Mountains are the gateway to the Bigelow Preserve. Okay, as you move up to the Bigelow Preserve and the Bigelow Mountain Range with the Appalachian Trail going across it, this is the mountain range that is the gateway. And these mountains are very spectacular and very, very scenic. They are visited, that whole region is visited by thousands of people every year. And that brings up a point in relationship to the impact of this industrial wind on tourism. But to give you a scope of what industrial wind really looks like, and I'll pass these around, I have two photographs here that I had blown up.